Hi there, it's Amy from Cakes with Faces. Now, when you're planning your trip to Japan, you might start off by looking up the top 10 things to do in Tokyo, but are they worth it? Now, honestly, I haven't really come across anywhere in Tokyo that I've thought was a complete rip-off or really a tourist trap. I've enjoyed most of the places I've been to, and Japan isn't really the sort of place you need to worry about that sort of thing. So today I'm going to take you through the top 10 things to do in Tokyo and give you some tips and some things you need to know. And if you enjoy these videos, my Japan travel guidebook has lots of ideas for things to do, but it's also got help for planning your trip and making your own top 10 things to do in Tokyo to really make the most of your time and do things that you enjoy. You can get it from cakeswithfaces.co.uk and there's worldwide shipping. And there's new videos about Japan on my channel every other Thursday if you want to subscribe. There's lots of different lists of top 10 things to do in Tokyo that are all slightly different. So for this one, I searched on Google for things to do in Tokyo, as you might when you're planning your trip. There's this top sites section, and I've taken the first 10. The first one, number 1, is Senso-ji, which is the oldest temple in Tokyo. It's a major temple, which I think most people who go to Tokyo would probably visit. And you can tell because it's usually quite crowded. It's in Asakusa, which is right here in the top right of the metro map. And Senso-ji is a lovely temple. The buildings are large and impressive with all this red detailing. At the entrance there's this huge lantern at the gate. There's a 5-story pagoda and there's lovely gardens with koi carp. And you can do all the traditional activities you can do at a Japanese temple. You can wash your hands to purify yourself. There's incense. You can get your fortune, your omikuji, and you can see all the racks where people have tied their bad fortunes that they want to leave behind them. There's a line of shops leading up to the main temple building called Nakamise-dori, which is actually one of the oldest shopping streets in Japan. Now, at first, I never really looked at these because I thought they'd just be full of tourist tat and rip-off things, but there's actually some quite good street food snacks here. You can also find some quite good snacks in the surrounding streets if you take a wander into the back streets away from the main temple. Just wander around, get lost, see what you can find, and really get a feel for Asakusa. You can also walk to Kappabashi, which is an area with shops with all sorts of kitchen stuff. I made a video about it. Even if you're not really into cooking, it's pretty interesting, and if you are into cooking, you will love it. So while Senso-ji is large and impressive, personally I find it doesn't have as much atmosphere as some of the smaller, less famous shrines, just because it is so crowded with people. But I know a lot of people do really like it. Back in Japanuary, my Instagram photo challenge in January, a lot of people posted pictures of Senso-ji and said it was their favourite. Another option would be to go in the evening or at night when it's less crowded, and the temple buildings are illuminated so they'll look really nice, although of course the shops might not be open then. Number 2 on our top 10 list is the Tokyo SkyTree, which is the world's tallest tower. You can get a view of Tokyo that's completely on another level from other observation decks. Everything looks so tiny. I especially like the view of Senso-ji from the SkyTree. It looks really small and cute. You can actually walk to the SkyTree from Asakusa. It's just across the river. I really enjoyed the Tokyo SkyTree. I wouldn't say it's essential, but I would recommend going to an observation deck. Not necessarily this one, there are quite a few of them. Just pick whichever one you like the look of. It really gives you a sense of the scale of Tokyo, which goes on for as far as you can see in every direction. And it's one of those things that I think really makes you feel like you're there. The SkyTree is really popular, so it can get quite busy, so I'd avoid the weekends. I was quite lucky when I was there, but I have heard the queues can get quite long. Next, number 3 on the list is Meiji Jingu, which is a large shrine in Harajuku. It's right by the station and the main shopping area. It is a large shrine, mainly because of the grounds, which are huge. The first time I went, I got lost just walking around the gardens. I think everyone who's been to Tokyo has a picture by this huge torii gate at the entrance. And you can see this big wall of sake barrels, which were donated by various breweries. The sake itself is used in religious ceremonies and festivals. There are possibly more impressive looking shrine buildings elsewhere in Japan. When you're there, the main building itself is this big square. It feels really open. But the main part of Meiji Jingu is the grounds, especially the forest, and this walkway through the tall trees with all the speckled sunlight. It's very peaceful and a lovely place. It feels really natural and calm. It's such a contrast to the shops in Harajuku, which are loud, busy, colourful and crazy. I love Harajuku, but when I've been there for a while, it's just too much. Meiji Jingu is peaceful, calm and spacious. It's full of greenery and it has a very natural feel with all the wood. It's worth noting that Meiji Jingu isn't a park. It's a Shinto shrine, so the whole grounds are a religious place. If you want somewhere to go for a picnic, the place for that is Ueno Park, which is just next door. That's where to go if you want somewhere to eat, if you want to play games or sunbathe, and it's the best place for people watching. You never know what you'll see going on. Next, number 4 on the list is Shinjuku Gyoen National Park. Gyoen or Koen means park, so it's Shinjuku Park. It's got woods, open areas, water and an area with a Japanese garden. I wouldn't say it's an essential place to visit, but it is a lovely park. It's a really nice escape from the city and I would go there again. You do have to pay a couple of $100 to get in, but it's not expensive and I'd say it's worth it. It's the perfect place for a picnic and it's large enough to have a walk around. If what you want to see is formal Japanese gardens, there are quite a few of them in Tokyo. There's Rikugien, Koishikawa Korakuen. There's quite a few of them if that's what you want. Next on the list, number 5 is Tokyo Tower, another observation deck. There are quite a few observation decks in Tokyo. This one, Tokyo Tower, is an iconic building. It's slightly more historic, so it has more of a romantic feel. As you might guess from how it looks, the design was inspired by the Eiffel Tower in Paris. It's actually ever so slightly taller, and it's painted red and white for air safety regulations. It's quite central, so you can see all around Tokyo. Of course, if you're on the Tokyo Tower, you can't see the Tokyo Tower, so that won't be part of the view. It's quite close to Senso-ji, which is another major temple, and that's a good spot to get your traditional modern Tokyo City of Contrast photos with the temple and the tower in the background. As I mentioned, there are lots of observation decks in Tokyo, and one of them that isn't mentioned in this top 10 is the Tokyo Metropolitan Government Building. That one's in Shinjuku and it's free, so you could go to that one as well as one you have to pay for, and go to one of them in the daytime and one of them at night. I think both the daytime views and the nighttime views are both amazing. In the daytime you can see more details on the buildings and see what everything is, but you can't beat the nighttime view with all the twinkly lights. Next, at number 6, we've got Tokyo Disney Sea. Now, this isn't for everyone. I think you know if you want to go to Tokyo Disney or not. There's 2 parks at Tokyo Disney, Disneyland and Disney Sea. And Disney Sea is completely unique to Japan. It's got themed areas that you won't find at the other Disney parks around the world. And some of the rides and attractions are unique as well. Some of the rides have different versions for Japan. For example, Soarin' isn't the same as the ones in America. In Japan, it's called Soaring Fantastic Flight, and it's themed around historic inventors and their dreams of flight. If you go to Disney Sea, do not miss Journey to the Centre of the Earth. It's the ride in the volcano in the centre of the park. It's really exciting. You zoom through caves and I just love how it looks. Overall, Disney Sea is just a beautiful park. It's so detailed and it's got areas like Venice, a Mediterranean harbour, and the Jules Verne area is really cool. I definitely recommend spending a day there if you like the Disney parks. It does get busy, so avoid the weekends if you can. Next, at number 7, we've got Tokyo Disneyland, which seems a bit strange they're listed separately, but they are separate parks and you can get tickets to just one of them. Tokyo Disneyland is similar to the Magic Kingdom parks around the world, so it's got the castle and Fantasyland, Adventureland, Tomorrowland and all of them. But there are differences and there are rides and attractions that you won't find anywhere else. My favourite and the most special is Pooh's Honey Hunt. You sit in a giant honey pot and zoom around, and it doesn't have a track, so you don't know where you're going next. So I think you know if you're interested in going to a Disney park or not. If you're a Disney fan, I'd recommend going to both if you can. If you don't have time, if you've only got one day, go to Disney Sea. Both of them are doable as day trips from Tokyo. It's really not far on the train. And for both of them, go during the week if you can. Next, at number 8, we've got the Imperial Palace. It's somewhere I went on my first trip to Japan. It seemed like one of the main places to go in Tokyo. It's kind of in the middle. You can walk there from Tokyo Station. You can't go inside the buildings, it's the Emperor's private residence, but you can see it over a bridge. You can walk around the grounds, it's free, and there's some gardens. If you want to see more, there are guided tours twice a day in Japanese and English, and they're free to go on. They take you across the bridge, Nijubashi Bridge, into the part that isn't open to the public, so you can see the buildings up close. You can book online, but it's probably easiest to just turn up on the day. They save 300 places for each tour to book on the day. You register at the Kikyoman gate, and it's probably best to get there early to make sure you get a place. Next, at number 9 on our top things to do in Tokyo, we've got Ueno Park. There are a lot of parks on this list. I wouldn't say this is an essential place to visit, but it's a nice park. I've got no complaints about it. Ueno is in the top right of the metro map, and the park is the major attraction there. It's very large and it's centred around a lake with swan boats. When I was there, it wasn't the best weather. It was quite grey and it had been raining. And at that time of the year, all these lotus plants in the lake all just look like dead sticks. I think they look a lot better at other times of the year when it's full of greenery. The park also has quite a lot of museums, a shrine and a zoo. Personally, I avoid the zoo because I've heard it's quite concretey and not the most natural environment for the animals, but I have also heard that people have enjoyed it, so I'll leave it up to you if you want to go there. Ueno in general is a slightly older area. It's not as glitzy or shiny as some other areas of Tokyo. It's got a more down-to-earth feel. Finally, at number 10, which for some reason is in Japanese, is Shibuya Scramble Crossing. I think everyone who goes to Tokyo is going to want to go to Shibuya and see the famous Hachiko Square with all the pedestrian crossings zigzagging across and thousands of people. It's right there outside the station, and really it's the heart of Shibuya. You can get a good view of the crossing from various cafes around the square and from Magnet department store. That one's quite high up. You can also get a good view from the station from the Shibuya Mark City walkway. It's between the JR Yamanote line Tamagawa exit and the Keio Inokashira line exit. Now, the Scramble Crossing isn't really a thing to do. You walk across it a couple of times, take some pictures, and you're done. But Shibuya is a really busy shopping and nightlife district, and I think it's one of the places you've got to go to experience being in Tokyo. It really feels like the big, busy, modern, built-up city of Tokyo. It's a great place to go in the evening to get something to eat, go to the arcades, go to karaoke, and then just walk through the streets. It really is amazing how it's just as busy really late at night as it is during the day. So that's the top 10 things to do in Tokyo according to Google. What do you think? There are a few things that aren't on the list. Studio Ghibli's not on there, and they don't mention Harajuku or Akihabara, which I would consider essential places to go, although everyone likes different things. I think it's important when you're planning your trip to not just rely on lists like this, but to do your own research and think about what sort of things you want to see and what side of Japan you're really interested in. And that's something I tried to keep in mind when I was writing my book. I think the best way to experience Tokyo isn't through specific attractions or places to visit, but just by walking around the streets and seeing what you can find and soaking it all up. So after you've been to the place on your list that you wanted to visit, just have a wander around the streets and see what you find. And I think that's the best way to really get a feel for Tokyo. And what do you think of the top 10 list? Is there somewhere else you'd include? Are these the best top 10 places in Tokyo? Tell me in the comments. And I'll see you not next week, but the week after on Thursday. Bye bye.